Hello, I'm Rusty. I I'm a child sexual abuse prevention advocate on Twitter. I want to address images that are fictional sexual images of children. You have hentai-con, shotacon, lolicon. You have some CGI stuff. I want to discuss the use of that and why I think that the fictional stuff should be legal. I got notes. I write like a 4-year-old. I'd show you, but I'm kind of embarrassed by it. But the I had a troll say that they feel that use of that would desensitize people and lead them to uh, offend to a, offend against an actual child, molested child, or view what used to be called child porn. Now we call it CSEM, which I think that people caught producing and distributing CSEM where there's an actual child involved, that they should be severely punished. I don't know, like, if it should be 50, 100 years or whatever, but they should, if they're producing, especially, they should not be allowed back into society. The argument though about the desensitization of people that use this material, I want to address that. But the first thing is that there's no actual victim in the production of fictional um, fictional depictions of children. There's no victim. No actual person's harmed in that in the production. Okay. I ran some polls on Twitter to show how ridiculous the arguments are that some of the trolls use. And the one thing I'm gonna give them this one theory. The the training of soldiers prior to Vietnam, they would use circle targets, and that was so they could test accuracy or whatever. They did research. They checked weapons of soldiers, and they found that I think it was a little over half of them had never been fired. So what the Army did, I'm not sure what the catalyst was for this, but they started making the targets shaped like people, the shadow targets that you've seen. That did make it where people were able to shoot people as they weren't before. Far more of the weapons, or people carrying the weapons, were actually firing them during Vietnam. But what we used to call shell shock, we have shell shock and PTSD. They're two different things. Shell shock is from being fired at. You get, trauma from being fired at. And what we have now is we have soldiers that have trauma because they fired weapons, killed people. It's two different things. Shell shock of what most soldiers have now are two different things. And the reason why is because we're just not wired like that. But there's been an attempt to say it desensitizes people. And what I'll say is this: most of the people I know that identify as MAP, especially the ones in the pedophilic age of attraction, they know that acting on their attraction would cause harm to another. That's the reason why they don't. The law doesn't stop them. It's their own self-restraint. And with that being said, you have to keep the laws in place, because there's some people that don't have the same moral compass as the anti-contact MAPs that I know. And the science on the school shooter phenomenon has been tried to be tied to video games, first-person shooter video games. I'm going to give this point to people saying that. One of the consequences of those first-person shooter games is that a person that goes into a school or whatever they'll shoot at multiple targets. They'll shoot one person and another and another. It's a skill you would learn on Call of Duty or Halo or any of the other popular ones. You would learn how to shoot multiple targets. It's one of the things that happens there. But the games are really, really popular. You have not had an uptick in violence with guns and kids. Every school shooting is a tragedy, but they're not happening every day. It's not like, any, or 10% of kids or 2% of kids even go from playing those video games into being a school shooter. I think the numbers there just, completely demolish that argument. And I always compare child sexual abuse to every other thing you have, like with substance abuse. And the reason why is because I understand like the economics of drugs a lot more than most people. When I say the economics of drugs, I'm talking about people making choices. Milton Friedman was a big advocate of drug legalization or the end of prohibition. People don't know that. If you don't know who Milton Friedman is, he was a advisor to Nixon and Reagan, and he was a pretty decent advocate for legalization of drugs. During Prohibition, alcohol was illegal, so you didn't have beer, wine, and the less potent stuff. So people used moonshine and whiskey, and you had blindness, you had, the violence between the gangs, and a lot of other externalities from that, and deaths. And then Prohibition ended, and people started using weaker forms of alcohol. Milton Friedman said that if marijuana had been legal, he's nearly 100% positive that you would never would have crack cocaine. And then marijuana is a big, bulky substance, so with it being prohibited, there was a push to make it stronger and stronger. And there's always the tendency of humans to use weaker and weaker versions of substances. Cocaine, prior to being illegal here, it was people just chew out the leaf like it was gum. And now that marijuana is legal, there's some studies showing that drug use of opiates are down. And with opiates too, if they were legal, you would have the ability to add stuff to the opiates where they would get sick. And how that relates to the fictional depictions of sex with kids is that it could be therapeutic, or anyway, a decent substitute. I think if the CGI stuff and all that was available, you'd have far fewer people viewing CSEM where there's an actual child involved, and it might even lead to a reduction of actual contact abuse. But the research has got to be done. There's not been research on. James Cantor said in the interview we did with Prostasia that the thing you have to look at is, does something cause harm, or does it lead to somebody causing harm? And if it leads to causing harm, you need to throw it out. That's my opinion on it. I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of pushback on that. If it causes harm, it's got to go. The question is, does this other stuff cause harm? Why is there such a resistance to getting the research done on it? I don't know. If you want to DM me when you see this on Twitter, you can find me at Prevention 3D. That's at Prevention 3 and D. If you DM me, I'll be happy to talk with you. I'm extremely civil in DM. I'm normally civil when I'm talking to somebody. Every once in a while, I do lose my cool. Everybody does. But thank you for watching or listening, whatever you did. Have a great day.